Has another major WWE return just been confirmed? A top AEW star is now world champion, and it looks like this former WWE world champion's days inside the ring are over. But first, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest pro wrestling news. But before we get there, the clock is ticking on the free agency of Drew McIntyre. The past several months have been fascinating when it comes to the wrestling free agents market, with the likes of CM Punk, Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay and Tama Tonga all finding new home promotions. With 8 months still left of 2024, things aren't looking to slow down anytime soon, with many deals currently on the brink of expiration, including the WWE contract of Drew McIntyre. Earlier today, PW Insider would provide an update on Drew's status in WWE, revealing that he is yet to agree to new terms, and they would write, "For those who have asked, WWE and Drew McIntyre have still yet to come to terms on a new deal. One source in WWE stated that McIntyre's current deal expires in the 5 to 6 week range, so there is obviously a pressure there to finally get a new deal done if the company wishes for McIntyre to remain locked in and not land on the open market. If the two sides don't agree to a new deal or an extension of the current one, that would mean that McIntyre would be free to wrestle anywhere he wishes by late May, early June. We're told by another source that the two have been in discussion for several weeks, but have yet to get to the finish line on new terms." The PW Insider report also notes that the recent changes within the talent relations department were made in order to strengthen the signing process, with Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch both a high priority. It's worth noting that expired contracts are different to releases, and that there's no 90-day non-compete clause attached because the deal is over. If Drew were to choose to allow his deal to expire in order to explore his options, there will likely be several offers on the table. Not only is WWE's Clash in the Castle event set to be held in his homeland of Scotland on June 15th, but AEW will soon be hosting the second annual AEW All in London at Wembley Stadium, and wouldn't that be an interesting debut location given his heat with CM Punk? McIntyre's deal appears to be expiring before Clash, so he won't be able to pull off the ultimate UK double duty. But which event do you think Drew McIntyre is most likely to appear at? Let me know in the comments down below. And next, let's take a look at Kenny Omega's real thoughts on CM Punk. One of the most infamous tales of the past few years in wrestling has been the backstage drama within AEW surrounding CM Punk and the Elite, heat that came to boil after the AEW All Out pay-per-view in an incident now known as Brawl Out. Outside of reports from the wrestling media, the details of the night have been kept quiet due to those involved signing an NDA to keep it under wraps, although this weekend Kenny Omega would provide some interesting information during his Twitch stream. Firstly, Omega would state that just because he is employed by AEW does not mean he agrees with every storyline that takes place on screen, perhaps in reference to the ongoing use of all-in CCTV footage to advance the angle between FTR and Young Bucks. Omega added that even though he is an executive vice president for the company, he's a terrible executive and has held no power in over 4 years despite his title. Regarding Brawl Out, Kenny would say that his main priority was to protect CM Punk's dog Larry, whilst trying to de-escalate the situation in order to create a peaceful environment for the dog. He would say that despite this, the situation got to a point where it was out of his control. Omega stated that how he wanted to handle the situation after the fact was not how the boss, presumably Tony Khan, wanted to handle it. He would even say that in his own opinion, sometimes people need to fight to blow off some steam, as long as it ends in a handshake after the fact. This mindset being one of the reasons he feels he shouldn't be an EVP. Following All Out, it was reported by Fightful Select that Kenny Omega and CM Punk would talk after the brawl, where it said Punk told Omega that his issue does not lie with him. Kenny would appear to confirm this as true during the live stream, noting that he and the Second City Saint hold a mutual respect for one another, and he would say, "Status with CM Punk right now, I don't know, it's just mutual respect. We reached out to each other. I can't really think of anyone that I dislike or have an issue with, especially an issue with wrestling. It's not like, hey, we're good now, it's we were never bad. Honestly, if it weren't for a complete other factor, we would have been able to have that talk on the night of Brawl Out. There's no issue between him and I, as far as I know." That's another thing too, guys. I don't want to seem standoffish or secretive about what happened. Yes, there's legalities and all that stuff, but even if there there wasn't. And I know this is going to sound weird because I've done a lot of comedy stuff in wrestling, but like, I'm actually not a huge fan of pulling back the curtain on stuff that doesn't need to be out in public. If for whatever reason guys were to fight or whatever, it's not for the public to know. That's just for them to air out their stuff, to get it out of their system. That's all I mean. The quote will be a bit of a kick in the teeth for those fans that, like myself, hoped that we'd see Omega and Punk work together at some point during the latter's days in AEW. Even when CM Punk joined AEW, I made a possible Dream Matches video that was topped by Kenny Omega, and after the Brawl Out incident, a whole new layer of intrigue was added that would have made the match next level. The comments even make you think that we probably would have seen the match had other backstage issues not been left to fester, and whilst it seems unlikely now, I guess you can never say never in the world of pro wrestling. Whilst not everybody involved shares the same level of respect for each other, it's cool to hear that it exists, at least in the case of Kenny Omega and CM Punk. But what do you make of Kenny Omega's comments on Brawl Out and the occasional need to fight things out, as well as his position as EVP in AEW and his respect for CM Punk? And did any of it surprise you? Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, we have some interesting backstage details on the upcoming WWE Draft. The 2024 edition of the WWE Draft is set to take place on Friday, April 26th and Monday, April 29th on Raw and SmackDown respectively, with the rosters of both the company's main brands set to be refreshed following WrestleMania 40. However, according to a fresh report from Corey Brennan of Fightful Select, the Red and Blue brand won't be the only shows to see significant movement, and he would note, there have been a few question marks over NXT's role in the draft, one being the possibility of main roster talent being drafted to NXT. Fightful Select's Corey Brennan has learned from sources close to the NXT creative process that this is not just a tease, with the final testament and Ivar's appearance on this past Tuesday's edition of NXT setting the stage for other main roster stars to make the jump during the event as part of a renewed focus on making NXT the third brand of WWE once again. Corey would add that the next 2 weeks of NXT television is set to focus on the draft ahead of the spring break-in double-header events on April 23rd and 30th, events that take place on either side of the Raw and SmackDown episodes of the draft. In terms of movements the other way, the report describes Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov as a lock for the main roster, whilst the status of former NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez remains up in the air. Tony D'Angelo's family and Baron Corbin have been discussed as potential call-ups as well. And finally, Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that WWE are looking to take advantage of draft fever in the NFL, which is why the event has been booked for the same week as the annual football draft. And next up, has another major WWE return just been confirmed? Since the Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal documentary dropped earlier this month, we've seen various clues to suggest that Bray Wyatt's real-life brother Bo Dallas, aka Uncle Howdy, is set to return to WWE television in the near future. From Howdy lighting up Bray's lantern at the end of the dock to mysterious music playing in the arenas during television tapings, all signs point towards Howdy finishing the story that he and his brother started in 2022. Prior to Wyatt's unfortunate passing. With that in mind, another clue has now dropped, with Howdy seemingly getting hold of the official WWE X account once again to send out a now deleted post. This weekend, a message would appear on the WWE timeline that hints that Howdy won't be alone when he returns, and the post reads, "You forgot us," with the words buried in a sea of question marks. Whilst we know that Uncle Howdy is almost certainly returning to screens in the very near future, who is the we that he's referring to? Well, it looks like one of the names that will join him has been confirmed, that is if speculation regarding a recent announcement is to be believed. Former Wyatt family member and free agent Eric Rowan, or Eric Redbeard, was set to appear at a show for East Coast Pro Wrestling this Saturday night on April 20th, although the promotion have now confirmed that Big Red is no longer able to make the booking due to new contractual obligations, and ECPW would write. We have just received word this evening from Eric Rowan that unfortunately he will not be able to make his scheduled appearance next week at Cold Town Carnage. Eric stated that his new contractual obligations are preventing him from making several dates, including ours. This is the first time in ECPW history that one of our scheduled stars cancelled, and it is out of our control. Given the ongoing Uncle Howdy return clues, fans have naturally connected the dots and assumed that Rowan is one of the names that will now join the former Bo Dallas in a faction upon his return, with the new contractual obligations potentially a sign of a WWE contract being signed. Interestingly, the cancelled East Coast booking was set to take place the day after this week's SmackDown, so could we see Rowan involved as soon as this Friday? With that said, who do you think will be linking up with Uncle Howdy in the coming weeks and months? Could it be Eric Rowan, or maybe even the absent Alexa Bliss, who Howdy was attempting to recruit during his last run in the company? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And next, a top AEW star is now world champion. This past Friday night, New Japan Pro-Wrestling would return to Chicago, Illinois for the second ever Windy City Riot event, a show headlined by a bout for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Tetsuya Naito would defend his title against former AEW and WWE World Champion Jon Moxley, who was looking to finish off an impressive trio of World Championships on his resume. In the end, Mox would walk out victorious, becoming the first man to win the top prize in WWE, AEW and New Japan, with him now set to return to AEW Dynamite this Wednesday night, bringing his newfound gold with him. Moxley wasn't the only new champion to be crowned on the night, as the show would also see former WWE United States champion Matt Riddle lose his NJPW World Television title to Zack Sabre Jr., ending his short 49-day reign with the belt. And finally, the show would also see an appearance from Jack Perry, who would fully embrace his new scapegoat persona in the hometown of CM Punk, donning a Crimea River entrance jacket, whilst copying many of the straight-edge superstars' moves and taunts, riling up the Chicago crowd. With that said, there was a portion of the crowd on Jack's side with dueling "you got choked out" and "no he didn't" chants, highlighting the splits amongst the audience. Unfortunately for Jack, the match went as well for him as AEW All in London, as he walked out on the losing side of his match with Shota Umino. Next up, it looks like this former WWE World Champion's days inside the ring are over. 2 years have passed since the New Day's Big E suffered a broken neck during an episode of Friday Night SmackDown, with the former WWE Champion yet to return to action since. This weekend, E would provide an update on social media after undergoing the 2-year scan of his neck, with him revealing that he still hasn't been cleared to wrestle and may never be able to wrestle again, and he would say, "Hey all, 2-year scans are in, things are unchanged. My C1 has healed fibrously, but has not formed new bone. I'm not medically cleared and truthfully, I may never be cleared, but I am blessed to be free of pain, immensely happy and otherwise healthy. Life is good." Outside of the ring, Big E is able to live his day-to-day life as normal and go to the gym. However, taking bumps is a whole different matter, with the risk of further damage a real possibility if he were to step between the ropes again. Whilst the news is bad in a wrestling sense, the bigger picture is much more important.